Welcome to Sober.Coffee, a weekly coffee chat sharing experience, strength, and hope for anyone on the sober road to recovery. You can download Sober.Coffee weekly on all podcast platforms and check us out on Instagram at Sober.Coffee Podcast and on Twitter at Sober.Coffee Pod. To learn more about us and to help support these sessions, visit online at Sober.Coffee. Here are your hosts, two guys on their own path to recovery, Mike and Glenn. Let's join them at the coffee shop.
You know, they say that.
First of all, who's they?
They, me. Okay. I say when I go to a concert, it's like I come back from the concert, I'm like, that was like the best concert ever, you know, right? And then I go to the one 2 weeks later, and I go, that was the best concert I went to ever. I got to tell you, last week's Boiling Frog episode, I just really good stuff. I mean, it was so revealing to me. Talking about surrender and choices, etc. Anyway, I think it's one of our better episodes.
So I have a funny story about the concerts, and yeah, I love Boiling the Frog. That was great. I went to a concert this week.
Okay, who'd you go see?
And so I align with your best concert ever, right? I went to see 30 Seconds to Mars at the House of Blues in Chicago.
Can I stop you though for a second?
Yeah.
I grew up in an era where it was The Who. Guess who? Beatles. Yes. Right? And now it's sentences. Bands are no longer one word. They're paragraphs.
You're right.
They're moving to paragraphs. All the good band names are taken.
The Cure.
But go ahead. 30 Seconds to where?
30 Seconds to Mars. So
okay.
they've been around, I don't know, 20 years. I mean, it's Jared Leto. He's a big actor, and he does this part-time with his brother just for a hobby. And I mean, he rocks, right? And so they're a popular band, and I'm a fan, right? And so got tickets. A buddy of mine from work and I went, and we were only like 8 people away from the stage, and it was probably on a scale of 1 to 10. It was probably an 8.
Okay,
right. Every other concert I've been to was a 10.
Okay,
right? Best concert ever, right? So it was a little different. I walked away and said, "Hey, that was cool." Right. I'm not sure if it's worth staying up to 1 in the morning. Right. I mean, it was cool, right? But I had to laugh because he's 50, or Jared Leto's like 50 or 51 or something. So he goes, "Hey, I'm certainly old." He goes, "But there's a couple older guys than me here." He looks right at me.
Oh, ouch!
He points right at me and says, and girl next to me has it on video. He points right at me and says, "I see you, Grandpa." and I turned to my buddy. I'm like, how in the world did he know that I became a grandpa this week?
Yeah, right. Oh, that's fantastic. What a great story.
It was awesome. But, man, we had as much, if not more, energy than the young kids in the room, and it was just cool. But yeah. I understand what you're saying.
And you know what, by the way, congrats on being a grandpa. I mean, look, these are the things. Man. Oh, there we go.
There he is, man.
Jared Leto, yeah. Our engineer just put him
So,
put
Brian,
him up there.
you know who I'm talking about, right? Of course. 30 Seconds to Mars.
Wow. Maybe I'm a grandpa. Maybe I'll go buy his album or his 8-track or his cassette.
His 8-track. That's awesome.
So anyway, congrats on being a grandpa.
Thanks, man.
And I'll just get, because you know me, I always go to what does that mean to your sobriety, right? And it's a reward. It's the program working for you that you get to be engaged. So it's not you working the program. You work the program. Now the program's working for you, and you get to be engaged in the life of your kids and now your grandkid. Congratulations. You get to do that.
Yeah, thanks. And, one word that I would use is proof.
Yeah.
For folks that don't know the story, go back and listen to the Wedding Bells episode.
Right.
I mean, this is my daughter wrote me off. I mean, I deserved it, man. I was a drunk, sure. and I had no value in her life, and she told me that, and so she went her separate ways, and my counselor and I, we started working on, hey, how are you going to live without your daughters in your life? I mean, that was painful, but I mean, that was a consequence of drinking, and a week before the baby was born, she called me up. She goes, "Hey, I just can't wait for you to meet your granddaughter." And I'm like, I'm just blown away. And she said, like 6 months ago, she's like, "Hey, I can't wait for you to take your granddaughter to Disney World." Mm-hmm. I'm like, man, do you actually trust me to do that? It's proof.
That's the thing that hits me. We walk similar path, you and I became a grandpa to Lincoln Allen, and just a little peanut of a kid, and just a couple of weeks ago, and that daughter of mine, when I went into rehab, which is so funny because we're going to be talking today about, the importance of starting your journey, right? But for me, I went into rehab. I didn't want anyone to know. I didn't even want my kids to know I was going into rehab. I mean, I was so embarrassed. I was so beaten, but yet I still held on to my pride, right? Oh, right. Now, the whole world figured out that Mike was gone for exactly 28 days.
I know, that's hilarious.
I mean, the world knows, but I'm like in denial.
Mike's doing this Tibetan hike for 28 days.
My daughter would send me notes in rehab and just encouraging me, saying, "You got this." And the funny thing is, Glenn, I appreciate her sentiment that I got it, but me getting it, me holding on to I got this, failed me for decades.
Right, that's why you got to keep plugging in.
Yeah, and so but congratulations. It is great. We get to be involved in our kids' lives now.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So thank you for that, and congratulations to you. You have another grand. How many you have?
Four.
Four.
Yeah.
That's great, man. Someday I might have 2. Who knows?
Well, do they call and check with you before they put the baby in the oven?
They don't check with me for anything.
Okay, then there you go. You're on the B team.
Yeah, I'm on the C team now.
C team now, right?
So it's C team. It's her mom, and then it's his mom, and then it's us.
Right.
Which is fine.
But you're on the team.
I just can't tell you, man, the pressure that takes off. That is like really cool. Being on C team is awesome.
Right.
There's no pressure.
Spoiler.
Just let it go. Yep.
All right, man. So what do we got today?
So we talked about we connect with we have some followers, I guess is what they're called, out there on social media and stuff, and we have people that connect with us through podcast platform, through Sober.Coffee, Instagram, Twitter, all that stuff, and there's a lot of early sobriety and there's a lot of pain from the first 90 days, and there's a lot of questions and confusion and frankly a lot of relapse in the first 90 days. So what I thought might be useful for those folks, or for sober curious, people like, hey, man,
I was just going to say that I've been reached out by people that they don't have the tragic story, if you will, that I had. I'm grateful for my tragedy, but it could come.
Yeah,
but maybe it could come.
Coming.
But they're uncomfortable with the fact that alcohol. But here's what I'm learning: the sober curious, and really even the better living curious, right? So we're walking a path right now that has so much more fulfillment with our grandkids and concerts and all these kind of things that we get to do. And so even there are listeners that have come back to my inbox who said, hey, drinking, maybe I don't have the biggest drinking problem, but I appreciate the content you're putting out there because it's helping me frame out a better way to live. So
I know, how do people find us that aren't sober? I don't get that. Or that aren't drunks.
Right. Yeah, you would make the assumption that if you're searching for Sober.Coffee or Sober.Coffee,
you're not looking for a better way to live, per se.
Right,
you're looking for a solution.
But we got them.
I know. Hey, that's international social media.
Right.
That's the thing called the internet.
Yeah, right.
That you invented.
It's a fad.
All right, so first 90 days. Let's chat about the first 90. First of all, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Your notepad
is blank.
Is blank.
I know. That's how prepared we are for
folks,
this.
Basically, this session's going to suck. Mikey's got no notes.
I'll get them. I've got a pen and paper in hand, so yeah.
All right, let's talk about the first 90 days.
I'll tell you why I don't have any notes. I don't have any notes because
I know why.
When you said it, I remember the importance of those first 90 days. 90 days is a habit driver. I mean, I can give you almost a play-by-play of what happened my first 90 days because what I was taught, I followed. It's my story. The importance of the first 90 days is my story. If I didn't have that foundation, I wouldn't be sitting here 4.5 years later.
Okay, so I'll put you on the spot.
Yeah, go ahead.
Mr. Know-It-All.
Yeah.
No notes.
Yeah.
I'll put you on the spot. What's the number one thing that's important about the first 90 days?
To me, the most important thing the first 90 days is to be a sponge, listen and learn.
I think that's number 2. I think the first one is don't drink.
Okay, well that I'm going to write that off as an assumption.
That's 1.A versus 1.B.
Yeah, right, exactly. Like for me, and Glenn, you saw me. You witnessed me. You witnessed me in the room. I'd walk in with a notepad.
So can I be fully transparent with you?
Yeah.
You are the number one, only person I have ever seen walk in with a notepad and stay sober.
Yeah. Interesting.
And I'm telling you, and until then, I had 100 people come in with their notepads out of rehab, and they're going to take all the notes, and literally in my mind and my checklist, and hey, I'm just saying generally this is assumption, but 99 of them are no longer on the path.
Can I tell you something interesting? It's just going through my head. Prior to October 18, 2013, I wasn't a note taker. That wasn't part of my. I mean, I haven't grown up to be a note taker. I was a terrible student. I wasn't a note taker, but I was so desperate, Glenn, for change that there was so much information coming at me. I had to write it down so I could regurgitate it later. It was just too much information.
Right. So here's what I believe about the note takers. And if there's note takers out there that it's successful, I mean, Mikey's proof. And if there's people out there, you're proof too. But my impression of the note takers are they're trying to make this an intellectual journey.
In the head. It had to get to the heart, right.
And change happens in the heart.
Right.
I think. And
absolutely.
So you are the miracle.
Yes, I am.
All right. So the most critical thing, first of all, I think for me, and again, that's where, I have a couple notes, but, I've got the expertise of being 90 days numerous times.
Right.
First of all, sobriety takes time. Nobody does significant life changes in 28 days.
Right.
I just don't. It took several years for some of my tools and, kind of tools. I think that's the best. It took several years for some of them to become natural habits, natural reflexes where I don't have to think about using those tools. They become second nature, right?
Right.
So it takes time to learn and it takes time to practice, right? And to really engage new coping, living, skills and tools. So go into it knowing that I'm going to have a period of unrest. I'm going to have a period of not feeling comfortable, of feeling outside of my skin, of feeling weird, of feeling awkward, of being intimidated, right? I'm going to have emotions that I probably haven't had ever, or at least in a long period of time. My first 90 days is going to be, just a whack job journey. Now, it's an awesome, right journey, but it's just going to be weird. It's like me going to the gym for the first 90 days. When I go to the gym for the first 90 days, I surrender. I'm like, okay, this next 90 days is just going to be a whack job part of my life. I am going to shit weird. I'm going to eat differently. I'm going to sleep differently. I'm going to have to rearrange schedules. I'm going, my body's going to feel different. I'm going to ache. I'm going to pain. I might injure something, but I'm going to get through this 90 days. And that's kind of the same way the first 90 days of sobriety.
I did not see it that way. I saw it as...
Well, I see it that way now. Nobody explained that way to me. That's why I want to get on here and say, hey.
Sure. I would have ran I would have ran away if they said you're gonna be experiencing pain in the next 90 days.
But it's easier to get through if you know... So one of the things I do with my sponsees, first things, is I go through the promises.
Yes.
Right?
Why are you doing that?
Yeah, let's break it down word by word. Right, let's really look at, because you're going to go through a lot of bullshit, a lot of change, and people don't like change. But I want to paint you a picture. just like going to the gym for 90 days, people paint me a picture of what the end of 90 days is going to look like. So every day when I go to the gym at, 5:30 in the morning, like, this is bullshit, I know what I'm working towards, I at least have a picture painted.
Absolutely. I agree. And you're exactly right. I mean, the picture I painted for myself was the guy sitting at the other side of the table to me who had 8 years of sobriety or 8 months of sobriety or even 8 weeks of sobriety.
But you always saw that snippet of them in that meeting or a story that they shared, right? And that's where
I love it. You're personalizing it with this. Know why you're doing it. Read the promises.
Right.
It says you'll be amazed before you're halfway through, right?
Right. It's like reading the last chapter of a book.
Yeah, that's right.
And say, okay, now I'm going to go through this textbook.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
So I think, it's very critical to go understand and say, hey, when I start this journey day one, I'm stepping into a cluster.
Yeah, right.
And I think it's okay to say that. And I don't think, people are like, well, you're going to scare people away. And I'm like, no, I think they're scared to death of taking another drink, of having another day full of drinking.
Right. Yeah.
So it's, which fear do you want?
Yeah, I agree. And, we've had Dr. John in here a couple times, and I love his line, AA is not a feel-good program. It's a get-well program.
Yep.
And I think he beats that drum because he doesn't want people to get discouraged. You're saying you don't want to, some people might say don't scare them away. He's just presenting the honest reality. It's going to be a 90-day challenge for you. Embrace it, right?
Yeah, I would say, look, man, I would say in the first 90 days, I mean, if you're a true alcoholic, right, and you're on the alcoholic path, I would say the first 90 days is going to suck.
Right.
Because of change. And a lot of people think, oh, now I'm going to AA within, hey, I'm in my 4th meeting, man. I see rainbows and everything's going to be great.
Right.
I mean, if change is hard.
Sure.
Right. Okay.
Real change is hard.
All right. So second one is what?
Meetings.
Here it comes. I knew this was coming.
Absolutely, positively. And the beautiful thing is that when I came into the and they said in rehab, that's an element to victory. If you want to be like the winners, try and get to 90 meetings in 90 days. And at first I thought, okay, this is going to be a challenge, but I made it work. And Glenn, that did such remarkable things for me because it put me in the rooms, it put me in the environment for 90 days in a row, and I didn't stop after 90.
Put you in the pool.
It put me in the pool.
So here's what I did I did 122 and 90.
Mm-hmm.
And I was going for the number, not for the result.
Mm-hmm. Okay, gotcha.
And I was proud of just going to another meeting, and 90% of the time I wasn't paying attention. I was in my own head trash, my own pain, my own what the hell's going on here, judging people. What are they? Oh, they're dumb. They look ugly.
So your 90 and 90 was not really your first 90.
It wasn't a healthy 90 and 90.
Okay.
Right. It was a sidewinder.
You were looking good on the outside. You were doing what the sponsor told you to do.
Yeah, I mean, I was the poster child on the outside.
Right.
I mean, 122 and 90.
Yeah.
I was the winner. But I wasn't.
Yeah, but you weren't.
Right.
Okay.
All right, next is
so let me stop there for 1 second.
Yep.
So 90 meetings in 90 days, but be part of the meeting. Get there early.
Be present. Yeah.
Be present. Take notes if you feel comfortable. Jot something down when you get out of the meeting. Take away something that you can use from that meeting.
Right. So very quickly, going back to the boil the frog episode, right? That gentleman, we were doing COVID and doing Zoom meetings, right? So he calls me up his way. He says, "Hey, these meetings aren't working for me." I'm like, "Okay, well, let's." And he was going to the same Zoom meetings I was. I'm like, "All right, let's dissect that." I said, let's look at he said, well, I feel no connection to people. And he goes, I don't really get anything out of them. I said, okay. I said, the meeting starts at 7 a.m. You show up at 7:05. You don't turn your camera on. You have Galaxy, whatever phone, right? I said, you don't participate. You don't do any of the readings. You don't share. You don't comment on anything.
You're a tough grader.
And you leave at 7:55.
Right.
And then you have the absolute balls to say that
it's not working for you.
It's not working for you?
Right.
So I said, guess what? I said, why don't we do this? I said, why don't we tear it apart? And you show up at 10 minutes till, have your camera on, say hi, banter and talk to people, because I know you got a personality. I know you can do that. I want you to do one of the readings. I want you to share, and I want you to stay after for 5 minutes and just connect and wish everybody a good day.
And he did that, and now he's sober?
Well, no, because he screwed up, all the rest of the thinking.
Right.
But he did that for a month, and he's like,
Okay.
I understand your point.
Okay.
You know?
Okay.
So
it worked.
Don't just go show up late, check in. And I didn't have to have a sheet signed, but I mean that's almost like the sheet signers. Let me show up, get my sheet signed, and I'll leave.
Right. Okay.
All right. Next one, very important, and I hear your ding dong, so we probably have to rush, right? No. Oh, we still have 7 minutes.
Yeah. We could,
look at Mike. Mikey's cracking the whip.
We could pack a lot in 7 minutes.
I know. Mikey's cracking the whip. No, I feel like I'm under pressure now. All right. Next one is find a sponsor.
Okay, and I'm gonna
co-sign that one.
Yeah, co-sign that one. But I'm gonna say connect. I mean, look, if you're all weirded out about the whole sponsor thing, just connect with somebody who can guide you through the journey, right? And figure out the terminology later. Just get
a friend.
Yes, get somebody who's walked the path that can give you some guidance,
or temporary sponsor. I mean, the only reason why I'm using that terminology is not to spook the 90-day person. It's that's the lingo that's in the room.
Sure, right, exactly.
So if you say,
but it kind of wigged me out at first. I'm like,
say, hey,
I don't
need
need
a friend.
Sponsor. I'm really good on my own. I'm doing great flying solo. Right. Look at my life.
Out of a plane. Right. So, if you say temporary sponsor in the room, that resonates with the people in the room.
Right.
Yes. That
they've heard it.
Yeah, that segments a bowling friend from somebody that's going to help you with the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. Okay. All right. Next one is a safe home environment.
Okay.
Right?
Talk to me.
I mean, one of the things we're going to touch on a little bit is triggers, right? But if I have booze in my house, right, or I have people pushing booze on me, or I'm going to places where there's booze, right? Part of the early change is, people, places, and things that you used to hang out with in a drinking, drugging, alcoholic-induced life. Be aware of those, right? And you're probably, for a period of time, I mean, for me, it was several years before I could walk into a bar. Because, I was very aware of my environment. So just be aware. I mean, if you have booze around your house, get rid of the booze. Right? Get rid of it. Have somebody come in.
You could survive with no alcohol in there.
Yeah, have somebody. I mean, if you're trying to be sober, then don't have the booze around. Right? Have somebody come empty it out or take it away.
Don't go golfing with your drug dealer, your ex-drug dealer.
Right. Take people's phone. Take your drug dealer's phone number out of your phone.
Right.
So I said that to a sponsor. I said that to a sponsor one time. He goes, "Yeah, but I got it memorized." Right. Of course you do. All right. So safe environment. Next one. I think this is very critical for me in my early journey is sleep, diet, and exercise. Right. Because if you're drinking heavy, you're drugging, your sleep patterns are whack job, right? So one of your keys, and today I am so prioritize my sleep and so selfish with my sleep because I know it's one of my keys.
Right.
I'm useless if I don't sleep good.
Right.
So I got all the sleep measurements, but sleep, diet, and exercise for me, for my last 45 days, I don't think I ate a thing. Yeah. I think vodka was 100% of my
well, sure.
Of my
I
diet.
mean, yeah, obviously, but here's the thing. I'm all in on 1/3 of that. I'm okay with the prioritizing sleep, right?
But people do benefit from a non-Oreo diet.
I appreciate that.
I know you like your lines of Oreos,
but for me, the first 90 days, Glenn, was more about sobriety than getting healthy, if that makes sense. It was about my sobriety. That was the mountain I was climbing, was to live a sober life. Eventually I got to, maybe a sleeve of Oreos isn't the best dinner choice, right? But for those first 90 days, just me. I mean, I let diet and exercise go to the wayside because I just had to I could only focus on one thing, and I needed to focus on sobriety. That's
right.
just me.
So one of the
sleep,
things that I learned.
absolutely.
Well, first of all, I'm still working on the diet and exercise also,
Mm-hmm.
right? But when I was in my 4-month program, we'd go for walks.
Yeah, right.
And the first thing I found is I had a lot of extra time on my hand.
Yeah, sure. Right. No, that's we use it wisely.
And
right.
if you do diet, sleep, and exercise, that's an investment in the healthy mindset and approach to that next meeting.
I
right?
agree.
So just
No, absolutely.
And a key part of this for me is because I would wake up at 2 a.m. and have problems sleeping, and I used to drink to put myself pass out again. I use guided meditation today. Go on YouTube and search guided meditation. And there's one, Michelle Sanctuary.
We got a link up in the resource room.
She does Cabin
she's
of
good
Woods.
stuff.
I'm just telling you, if you want to get outside of your head,
Right.
in the head trash and all the woes and, I can't believe I'm doing this.
Yeah.
Guided meditation will get you out of yourself. Identify and steer clear of triggers, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they say if you hang out in the barbershop, you will get a haircut eventually, right? I mean, if you go to the dance clubs where you used to drink and get drunk and hang out with people, just be aware, right?
And one of my favorite things that I've learned over time is awareness comes at how am I acting? How's my body? Is it starting to act like it did when I was drunk, Mike?
Right.
Am I starting to think that way? Am I starting to act that way? Right.
Right. All right. Since you're putting me under pressure, I'm going to shotgun these.
Okay.
Have a schedule. Get up in the morning,
absolutely.
know what you're going to do that day, and get busy.
Yes.
You know what? If you drank 12 hours a day and now you got nothing to do for those 12 hours, you go to a meeting, you look up on the meeting board, you find out AA bowling, right? AA ping pong, AA pickleball, AA golf.
Yeah.
Go to 2 meetings a day if you have to.
Right.
I mean, there were days I would go to a meeting, I would order a pizza from the pizzeria next door. I would sit and eat the pizza while I'm waiting for the next meeting.
Right.
Right? Because I had to do something.
Right. Yes.
Right?
I love that. I love that.
Have a schedule, get connected, right? And it was hard because I had years of isolation. And AA bowling, I didn't know how to talk to people.
No. I
mean, I'm a social butterfly, but I didn't know how to talk to people.
I just don't like putting my feet in somebody else's shoes.
Well, that's then by your own.
Okay.
But I'm telling you, there's no better place than AA for socially inept or isolated people.
Yeah.
Because everybody in there understands it, and they welcome you. They'll carry the conversation
Unconditionally.
Yeah,
Right.
you don't have to say anything. Just say, "Hey, man, I don't know what to say." I've said that so many times, and the magic happens.
Yep.
Right?
Love it.
Next one is caution of major life changes.
They're
just
going to
like
happen.
that
Right.
Boil the Frog episode. Somebody gets sober for 2 weeks and then want to rebuild the world. You're building a castle on a very weak foundation that will collapse. So just be careful of that.
Love it.
And then lastly, is celebrate milestones. 1 day of sobriety is major.
Yeah.
1 week is major. 1 month, major. Right? So, I mean, it's not about the ego thing, but it's about recognizing, hey, I have gone 4 years not having a day sober, and now I was able to go yesterday without having a drink. And then build on it. If I was able to do yesterday, I have 100% proof that I can get through a day. I can get through today.
Right.
So those milestones are really important.
And I think you
get
give
those coins
and get the coins and give it. Yeah. Oh boy, don't go there. Because I knew a guy who had 8 years and didn't get a coin for a month. But anyway, give that back to the community. Let people know that you celebrated 8 years, 4 years,
That it
3
works,
years, 90 days. I'd like to close by saying 90 days doesn't have to happen just one time. And what I mean by that is I can embark on a new 90 days starting today.
Right.
Right? So I can, if I don't like the habits I've been slipping back into, I can take the next 90 days and focus on things like diet and exercise and connections and cleaning up my cell phone and
Are you speaking right to my heart right now?
Right? I mean,
I think you are.
90 days.
It doesn't have to be booze, but it can be the exercise and diet.
Absolutely everything. And we can embark on a 90-day journey right now.
As I'm pointing to my donut.
Enjoy that donut. Hey, this has been good stuff.
I love you, brother, man. Hey, I'm glad I walked 90 days. I'm glad I walked a year with you. I mean, just amazing. And I'm glad that all those notes that you took, first of all, it's great content for the show.
Yeah, right.
Second of all, you found the transition from your head to your
my
heart.
heart.
And that's rocking it, man.
Love
All right,
you.
brother.
Love
you,
you.
man.
All right, man.
See you next week.
See ya.
Thanks for joining us for today's coffee chat. To contact the show, email us at podcast@Sober.Coffee. If you need immediate help, the AA hotline is 800-839-1686. The National Suicide Prevention Hotline is 800-273-8255. Remember, Mike and Glenn are sharing their own journey on the path to recovery. Any suggestions, medical or otherwise, are their own experiences and should not be viewed as professional advice. See you next week, and remember, there is a solution.